Hi everyone, Alexandra Jarrett, Jupiter Returns here with your weekly astrology forecast for the week of March the 23rd to the 29th of 2020. Thanks so much for watching and tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to my channel to make sure that you don't miss any of my forecasts. We've just been through a pretty intense week once more, as I'm sure I don't need to tell you. I'm really happy to tell you there is some uplifting energy on its way to us, and I'm really pleased to be able to share that with you today. So keep tuned for the whole of the forecast, and I can explain everything to you as we move through. The big news, just to recap where we find ourselves at this time then. So the big news that we've been moving through sort of towards the end of last week and over the weekend, we had Mars, the planet Mars, the warrior, really getting into the thick of the action up there in Capricorn, really making things a lot faster, a lot more pronounced, and essentially a little bit more aggressive. So things are really starting to heat up with Mars. Mars is heat and it's fast and it's impulsive. So a lot of that energy has been going around. Of course, if you watched last week, you'll understand Mars and Jupiter came together at that very crucial degree, 22 degrees of Capricorn. So if you didn't catch last week, go back and have a look at that one. The other main thing that we had was the Sun finishing the journey through the sign of Pisces and moving into Aries. This is the point of the equinox, the vernal equinox. So it's the beginning of spring. We literally are starting a brand new astrological year. This part of the chart essentially being the kind of start-finish line. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. So the Sun just closing things up and starting afresh now is a real strong, potent kind of activation of our need to do something. Our need to be active in some way. Aries is a cardinal sign. It wants to go out there and make something happen. And so, understandably, that Mars impulse can be a bit frustrated at this time when we're having messages of not doing what we'd like to do at this time. So a lot of frustration building up in people with a lot of Mars and Aries, that fire energy around. Really super important. On Sunday, we had the movement of Saturn, ruler of Capricorn and Aquarius, moving out of Capricorn just temporarily, I'll explain, into the sign of Aquarius. When a planet changes signs, this is a big deal in astrology. There's usually quite a profound experience, quite a profound influence that is more easily kind of received when this happens. Of course, let's just recap on what Saturn relates to and what Aquarius relates to, and then we can start to kind of join up the dots with what we're experiencing both out there in the wider world and also for our own personal experience within. So Saturn is the sign of responsibility. It's the sign of maturity. It's the sign of hard work and doing your duty. Duty and responsibility and discipline are the real kind of watchwords of Saturn. Saturn is happy to have a task that's going to take a long time because he's disciplined. He's got the kind of self-control that allows him to just keep chipping away slowly, making that achievement come into tangible physical reality. It doesn't really matter how long it takes because he just so determined, so kind of disciplined that he knows he's going to get there, right? And this is the energy that we find of Capricorns that Saturn rules. So he's happy to just take his time. That's the maturity, that's the time kind of essence, and just slowly make something happen. And in doing so, in taking his time, in using control and discipline, he ends up producing something that will stand in good stead for a long time. So by putting in a lot of effort over a long period of time, we create something that is more durable, something that's going to really persist against whatever comes at it right? It's resilience, it's real strength, okay? So these are all the kind of the influences of Saturn. So Saturn kind of can bring us into a place of just wanting to be a bit more serious about things, to, you know, kind of like really get to grips with a task in hand, which I think we all need to do at this time. When we look at Aquarius, Aquarius essentially is the tribe. It's our community. It relates to the 11th house of the astrology chart, the zodiac wheel. So it relates to how we connect with each other, how we network. It relates to groups and collections of people and how we work together. Now, you can easily join up the dots then that when we have Saturn as our duty and our responsibility moving into the sign of our tribe, this really is a strong call of duty. This is literally saying, you know, this chain, the Aquarius chain that Saturn's going to be helping to forge over the next 2.5 years as he moves through the sign, that chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So this really is the time that we have to take our personal responsibility for our part in the collective, in the tribe. And if that means social, Aquarius, distancing, Saturn, then that's what we have to do for the good of everybody. It's the time we get out of this kind of Mars impulse of just fighting for what I want and start to realize that, you know, we're nothing without everyone else. We are a community and we draw our strength from that. And so we have to take some responsibility around that. So Saturn is, this is kind of a temporary situation with Saturn moving into Aquarius. Saturn is going to remain in Aquarius only until July the 1st, okay? It's going to go up to from 0 to 1 degrees of Aquarius and then turn retrograde, move back into Capricorn, and we'll move back all the way to 25 degrees of Capricorn, and then move forward again and won't ingress Aquarius in terms of staying there permanently until December the 16th. So that is when we will kind of get the proper full, okay, this is what we're doing now. So this is kind of a bit of a preview. The influences that are coming up now are really just a foretaste of what we have to come, where we need to put the work in, okay? This is what we're going to be forging. This is where we're going to need to be disciplined. And it's all about our duty to the collective, our duty to the rest of our tribe, and how we contribute to that, how we put in work. Whilst Saturn was at that very last degree of Capricorn, Saturn can also bring up fear. Now, of course, there's a ton of fear around at the moment. And I probably just want to be a little bit controversial right now. I don't know whether it's just from my own journey or the fact that I have a lot of planets in Pisces and therefore I tend to sort of support the underdog. But my regulars will know I always talk about all of the range of human experiences and emotions being as valid as others, okay? And I think there's a lot of damage that can be done if we move too far into the everything has to be positive kind of way of doing things, way of looking at things. Fear has been very, very much stimulated, but when we think about it, fear goes back to this Mars influence of survival. Fear is what's going to keep you alive. And we're facing a global pandemic. And it seems to be that a lot of the backlash, that the Mars energy that we've seen over the weekend and into this week has been around people not actually having enough fear. People being fearless and saying, well, to hell with it, I'm just going to carry on. I'm going to go to the pub. I'm going to get my nails done. I'm going to go out for a walk with my family. That kind of, that lack of fear. It's kind of like, no, this is actually inappropriate now. We are in a survival situation. And so a little bit of fear, when done in a certain way, is actually what's going to help us stay alive. And I'm quite concerned that there are people out there at this time who aren't experiencing any fear, because I think there's something fundamentally wrong if you're not experiencing some level of fear. And I'm not encouraging people to be fearful, and I'm not trying to spread fear. I'm just saying that what we need to do is, Jupiter's influence here is the wise observer. Okay, we need to be observing ourselves, and we need to be observing without judgment everything that arises within. Because believe me, one of Saturn's expressions is suppression. He's a heavy, heavy weight. He creates like the resistance that we have to push back again in order to build our strength. Okay, so he does make things feel heavy and depressing and oppressive in order to strengthen us. Now, what we can do is, if we're taking on that Saturn influence not from the wise observer perspective, then we can suppress things, we can push things down, and it's not healthy. So if there are little bubbles of fear, if there are little bubbles of what if, those kinds of things, is perfectly understandable, is it not, in these times? Can we just move out of judging that as being something bad and say, okay, it's understandable, it's perfectly human. Let's just spend some time validating that rather than pushing it down and suppressing it. Because I'm seeing an increasing number of people now who are saying, I've been staying really positive for the last few weeks. I've been putting on a smile and, you know, doing all my happy stuff, and I just had a massive panic attack. Or now I'm really starting to crack up. Because when we don't gently and responsibly just release a bit of the pressure that's building up inside, it builds up and then it goes kaboom. So, and this is what I just want to create a little bit of balance about how we approach this topic of fear. So I think one of my messages this week is that part of our responsibility as a tribe and to the tribe is to just do away with some of that judgment and just be able to validate, because validation is hugely, hugely healing. Validate everything that we're experiencing, and that will help to just take some of the sting out of it, take some of the weight out of the situation. If we just say, do you know what, let's just spend 10 minutes, beg your pardon, 10 minutes each day just to genuinely, authentically check in with every part of ourselves, not just the parts we like, not just the bits that feel all happy. Check in with yourself, see what's going on within, and then validate that experience. Allow it. Don't judge it. Don't push it away. Don't try and suppress it and paint on a happy face. Those 10 minutes a day, then you can go back to maintaining a high vibration, keeping your spirits lifted. It's so important that we do this at this time, but not at the total expense of all of the other experiences that we're having. So it's about balance, finding the right balance, and that will be completely personal to you. But I just wanted to get that message out. I think it's really, really important, particularly with Saturn being very much, it can provoke fear, a lot of fear within us. So just my thoughts on fear and how we're experiencing it at the moment. So Saturn, of course, does create restrictions. It creates boundaries. It's authority. It's strictness. It's the fun police. So it's no surprise that we now find this going on in our communities, in our tribes. And so, yeah, we've got Saturn there until July the 1st before the retrograde back into Capricorn. So let's go ahead and look at the full week day by day, as I do, and we'll take everything that's going on in turn. So here we are today, Monday the 23rd. We have this quite tight conjunction of planets now in Capricorn. We have Jupiter, Mars, and Pluto all within 1 degree of each other. So this is really, really tight. Jupiter's expansion, Mars' kind of survival instinct, and Pluto, the death and rebirth cycle, the crisis. So we're seeing this culmination of all of these things happening in Capricorn, which is the structure of our society. The moon tonight, currently moving through Pisces, okay, at the very, very last moments of the moon cycle for this month. This is the perfect time to go within. This is the perfect time to release, to clean out, to let go of anything that's hanging around, that's taking up space that you don't need anymore. the lessons that have been brought to you during the last moon cycle that we've been experiencing, what was shown to you at the last full moon. This is the time to let go of the parts that you no longer need, that aren't serving you anymore. So use this very, very powerful waning moon that we have for the remainder of today in the last sign, going over the last degrees of the last sign. This is a powerful, powerful time for cleansing away. Overnight, she will then move into Aries, reactivating the very first degree of Aries, that very, very powerful cardinal active point called the Aries point, which is our call to action. This Aries is focused on the individual, on me, and on the warrior. And when we have this, the Aries point activated, it really is saying, okay, what do I need to do? What difference can I make? The actions of the individual have a big influence on the collective at this time. So Moon moves into Aries overnight, so that on Tuesday, the 24th of March, we have at 9 a.m., around 9 a.m. here in the UK, we have the new moon taking place at 4 degrees of Aries. So the closest conjunction that we're going to have to this brand new start is with Chiron. Chiron, the wounded healer. Chiron, the teacher. Chiron, whose experience with his own wound was what helped him to be able to help other people. And the wisdom that he took from other people helped him with his own wound. So this is a really, really powerful time for us to set a new intention around our healing and around the part that we play in healing everyone else as well. So it's a perfect, perfect time for us to really be clear and have a very specific goal in mind around that. If you know your own birth chart, then find where Aries is and look up what are the themes of that house in your chart. That will help you to refine down the kind of the new seeds that you're sowing, and more about sowing seeds later on actually in the week. But yeah, this is really going to help you to refine down the process of your law of attraction, which is essentially when you're working with the moon cycle, that's what you're doing. You're saying, I want to plant some seeds now that I really want to grow. But what they're going to grow into really needs to be specific to the area of your chart and the planets that are involved in your chart. And if you need some help with that, then get in touch with me. That's exactly what I do. Book a moon dialer reading with me once a month, and that's exactly what we can do together. So moving on then further into Tuesday, I'm starting to touch on the really uplifting news that we're going to have this week. We are starting to see now the tightening of an applying, that means coming together, aspect between Venus in her home sign of Taurus and Jupiter in fellow earth sign Capricorn. Now these two, as we move throughout the week, are going to have an increasing connection with each other, an easy flow of energy. And that's going to allow them to talk to each other. Venus being love, Venus being food and resources, money, Venus being how we relate and what we love and value, the things that we feel are worth something in our life. Over there in the sign of Taurus, this really is about self-worth. When Venus is here, we can do a huge amount of work on our own self-esteem and our value system, as well as the resources that we have in our world, the money that we earn from the work that we do, the food that we have in the cupboards, the clothes that we have, all of these kind of tangible resources of survival. Jupiter over there in Capricorn then is all about abundance. It's all about let's have some more of that. So this is when Venus and Jupiter trine like this, we can really encourage more of the Venus kind of influences that we're trying to attract. Okay, so I'll go into further detail about that towards the end of the week. But from Tuesday onwards, we can really start to tap into that energy. And of course, you know, as soon as the moon starts to separate from the sun after the new moon, then she is growing. she is once more in the waxing phase of her cycle. And so there is an increased kind of influence from the moon as well. So I'm going to go further into detail with that later in the week. So on Wednesday, we actually have the point where the sun will be exactly conjunct Chiron. So I imagine there'll be quite an increased focus at this point. We will feel ourselves being drawn increasingly to Chiron matters, whether they be our individual Chiron or the Chiron, the collective wound that we're all experiencing. And it's a real time to ask, you know, the sun is very much about our own vibration, the vibration that we put out into the matrix, you know, how we're all connected. And it's asking us to just consider for a moment and give our attention to how we contribute, okay, as an individual. How are we contributing to the collective wound? How are we contributing to the collective healing process as well? And by taking ownership and responsibility and looking at our own stuff, where there might be healing that we need to do on ourselves, how that then ripples out into everybody else, radiates out with the sun's rays, you know? This is with the sun, we're really dealing with how we shine. What light are we giving out into the world? So just some things to consider then around Wednesday. And Wednesday is a great day for thinking because it's ruled by the planet Mercury. So a great day for just thinking, writing, anything to do with communication. So we move into Thursday then. Thursday is the day ruled by Jupiter. And this is where we have the moon completing the journey through Aries and now moving into Taurus. This is where things start to get a bit exciting for me, because this is the point in the lunar cycle where I would recommend you start to do things, start to take physical, tangible action around the intentions that you've created at the new moon. And with this coinciding with the moon being in her sign of exaltation, the moon is very, very, very happy in Taurus. So that's an extra blessing for us, if you like. She's growing in size. She's in a sign that she loves to be in. So, you know, that this is the time really to capture, to start to take action on your plans. It really kind of, she's going to meet up. Unfortunately, we just have a little moment when she has a meeting with Uranus over there in Taurus. I say unfortunately, that's not fair. It just generally means that it could be a little bit of a feeling of stimulation around nervous energy that we can get and that we can experience with the collective, feeling a sense of panic, of instability, essentially, because Uranus is a very, very stimulating, nervous system stimulating and provocative kind of energy, and the moon will, as she passes over, tap us into that potentially for those of us that are more sensitive. So there could be a bit of an undertow of that, but essentially what Uranus is trying to achieve is change. That's it. Uranus is here to wake us up and shake us out of the ruts that we get into in life. So if you're feeling an increased sense of nervous energy, or that tension building up, the anxiety, then it's a call for you to do something. It's saying something needs to be changed. So just have a think, how could I do something differently? How could I approach my feelings differently? Uranus and moon is feelings, Uranus is doing things differently, making a radical change. Perhaps it is, taking on board some of what I said in my introduction about just spending a little bit of time to validate and accept our full range of emotions, rather than kind of separating and dividing them up into good emotions and bad emotions. Maybe that will just spark some ideas of your own as to how you approach your own emotions. This would be a good time to kind of create some change. Then we move into Friday. Friday, I'm just loving so much. The moon at this point is now separating from Uranus. So we're you know, we've moved on from that change stimulating kind of vibe, and now she's really in a very, very comfortable position, the moon right now. Friday, for those who follow me will know, is the day of Venus. It's ladies' night Friday. It's with the moon being in Taurus, ruled by Venus, and she's waxing, she's growing. This is some beautiful energy to capture on this day. The trine aspect that we have between Venus and Jupiter is really, really, really tight at this point. It's strengthening. We're catching it just as those two planets come together, which is the best time to tap into the energy. Also, as it's the day that's actually ruled by Venus, again, the perfect time to tap into this energy. What is that energy? Okay, Taurus is Gaia. Taurus is Mother Earth. So the energy is of anything that you're planning on doing in the garden. I'm a gardener. I am chomping at the bit to get my seeds planted, but I'm holding off for Friday because I know that's going to be the best energy. I want growth, okay? I want my food. I'm growing plants. I'm actually growing flowers too, which is beauty, which is also Venus. I'm growing vegetables and fruits and flowers, all Venus things, very much about this Taurus idea of resources. It's in earth sign. I'll be planting them in the earth, and we want them to grow. I want to have an abundant crop. I want to have a big, bountiful crop. So Jupiter, Venus and Jupiter, two earth signs. This is the moment, gardeners, I'm telling you, just step into this. Otherwise, if you've been trying to do any work on your self-esteem, your self-worth, anything to do with feeling good, increasing your feelings of being beautiful, nurturing yourself. Taurus is the sign that rules the five senses. It's a very, very sensual sign. So anything that you can do to experience giving yourself some love and nurture and really kind of enjoying all of your senses, eating something really, really delicious, enjoying, you know, perhaps you can't go off and have your time for exercise out there in the world, but you can do it. You know, you can do your yoga at home. You can learn to massage yourself. If you go for a regular massage or a treatment like that, this is the time to just show yourself that care and just tap into this really, really abundant pleasure energy, because it's all about that. If you're super geeky about astrology like I am, you kind of take the planetary days, as they're called, which is when I say to you, you know, this day is ruled by this planet. And you can take it a step further, and you can actually take it down into planetary hours. So each hour of the day actually has a planet that's ruling it. So if you really want to refine down the Venus stuff, and this is what I will be doing, as in, you can look it up online if you're not in or around London, but just to give you an idea, the Venus hours on Friday, Venus's day, will be 5:45 a.m., 1:10 p.m., and 20:19 p.m. in London. You can look that up online. Just put into your preferred search engine. I would recommend Ecosia. I don't have any, you know, links with them or anything, but it's a good one. Pop it in planetary hours calculator, something like that, and that's gonna. You just put in the town where you live, and it will show all of the hours of the day. And then you can structure what you're doing around those planetary influences. All it's saying is that planet has more of an influence at that time. So what we're capturing on Friday, if you refine it down, is just a ton of Venus energy, with the moon waxing, she's growing. We've got the applying aspect between Venus and Jupiter. It's beautiful energy. That energy will be still with us on Saturday. Saturday being ruled by Saturn. So if there's something that you want to, if you want to capture that energy and put it into some kind of work project, because Saturn likes work, he likes hard work, he likes discipline. So say you want to capture the Venus-Jupiter energy, but you know that's going to involve you doing a lot of hard work in the garden, or it's going to involve you putting some discipline in. So say you've decided, you know, I really want to work on my fitness or my beauty or on my self-worth with this energy. Saturday is the day when you can show up and actually say, okay, I'm going to make this a regular, disciplined practice now. I'm going to commit myself, because Saturn loves commitment. It likes things to last. I'm going to commit to taking this practice every single Saturday that comes at this time of day or whatever. So Saturday, you can just pull that energy through. Saturday in the morning, there will be kind of the peak moment of Venus and Jupiter coming together. The reason also that I'm really emphasizing this Venus energy is that Venus, currently in her home sign, she has a lot of what astrologers call dignity. So it just means that because she rules the sign of Taurus, she gives a more preferable, a more desirable influence. That the range of potentialities that each planet can offer us, it differs depending on what sign that they're in. But in her home sign, she's giving hers really her best. So looking forward to the rest of the year with Venus, I think probably this is, we're at the time now where we're going to get the best essentially that we can get with Venus. She's about to, not in the long future, she's going to move into the sign of Gemini. This is going to be the start of her retrograde. So Venus, we're in a year where Venus is going to be going retrograde. So when she gets up to 5 degrees of Gemini on April the 9th, so it's really not too far away, just a couple of weeks, she moves into shadow. All right. So she will be in shadow until May the 13th, when she will have moved up to 21 degrees of Gemini. And then she will be retrograde from May the 13th until June the 25th. And then she will be, she'll go back retrograde. Then she will move forward on June the 25th, won't be out of shadow again until July the 29th. So it's a really long period of time for Venus to be in retrograde, the whole of the retrograde period, including the shadows. I don't leave the shadows out. They're just as important as the main retrograde period. So from April the 9th to July the 29th, Venus really isn't going to be, you know, kind of doing what she does out there in the world. She's going to be drawing us within and asking us to do some real work with her at that time. And I will, of course, as always, be here to explain to you how you can get the best out of that transit. Once she has finished, getting towards the end of summer, once she's finished in Gemini, then of course her first, the next place she's going to be is Cancer, which of course is opposing the heavy and challenging energy that we have going on in Capricorn. So she's going to have some challenges there. At that time also, Mars will have moved round to Aries, and will be in shadow himself, because also this year we'll have a Mars retrograde as well. So not only will Venus be opposing Capricorn, Venus will be squaring Mars in shadow. So not going to have much fun in Cancer. A little bit of a breather through Leo, but that's not going to give us the strength that she has now. And by this point, she's also back to being a morning star. At the moment, Venus is in her evening star phase. And I would recommend going out in the evening, and you will see her shining so bright, because she's coming closer and closer and closer to Earth. So she's really easy to see right now. But once she's been through the retrograde, she'll be reborn as a morning star. So although she's not going to be too bad in Leo on the whole, in general, she's not going to have the strength that she does right now. Then once we're through Leo, when she's traveled through Leo, she'll be moving into Virgo, where she's actually in detriment. She doesn't particularly do too comfortably in the sign of Virgo. And then once she moves into Libra, where she is at home, this is the other sign that Venus rules. She's actually going to be opposing Chiron and Mars in Aries. So that's going to be very tricky for her. And Libra will be squaring the Capricorn planets. So you can see that now really is the best time to capture the Venus energy. And I would really strongly recommend in any way that you can. This is also with Jupiter's influence here. Jupiter speaks to gratitude as well. So really tapping into the gratitude that we have for the abundance of resources that Mother Earth gives us, you know, Gaia energy, really taking a moment to, and it's true, you know, I posted on social media this week the Joni Mitchell song Big Yellow Taxi, because the words go, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. And we're moving into that time now of, you know, really having it sort of brought right up into our faces, how lucky that we actually are in ordinary day-to-day life, that we can just go to the shops and buy whatever we want, that we can go out into nature whenever we want, because that might be taken away from us very, very soon. Time with friends, you know, having fun times, socializing, all of these kind of Venus things, they may be temporarily removed from us. And that's giving us the opportunity to express some gratitude and just realize how very, very lucky we are. And that the reality we're living in right now is still probably, even under lockdown, considerably better than the vast majority of the people out there in the world. You know, it's time for some lessons. Jupiter is all about lessons. So I think this will be a time when we will be able to tap into the bigger lessons of Venus and express some gratitude for that, and really give some thanks to Mother Earth for all that she gives us. Taurus is Gaia. Give some thanks to our bodies, to our physical earthly incarnations. Literally, you know, I make a ritual of this. When I sit in the bath, I will touch, you know, working from my toes upwards, physically connect. That's what Venus likes. She wants to make connection. Touch each part of your body and express from the heart gratitude for everything that that part of your body does for you. Because it's not until your body's not able to do those things for you anymore that you really, really realize just how much you've taken it for granted. So that's a simple exercise that you could do to really capture this energy as well. So yeah, really, really do whatever it is that you can do to capture the energy. On Saturday, just going back to Saturday, the moon, the waxing moon, she's growing, she's strengthening, will conjunct Venus, okay? So this is a gorgeous moment to capture as well. And at that time, the pair of them will trine Jupiter and Pluto. So this is giving us, this is really allowing us to put our hope. Okay, Jupiter's all about hope. Our wishes and hopes on this growing moon into the Pluto crisis situation. Pluto is the death and rebirth. So let's put our thoughts towards the future and what comes after the crisis. Okay, I think we're at a point now where everyone is on board, largely. Everyone is pretty much on board with the fact that, yep, we're in a global pandemic. This is going to be very difficult. This is a huge crisis like none we've seen for a very long time. We're finally present in that space. So that part of the process is kind of done. It's got us there. And when we align with Jupiter and Venus and the moon trining up with Pluto at this time, we're really saying, okay, what does this mean about what comes after? We're really focusing in here on the rebirth aspect of Pluto. Yes, Pluto needs a death, but it's to facilitate the rebirth. So what about our values? What about our use of resources? What about our connection with nature and Mother Earth and our bodies? All of these issues, what part does that play in what's going to come in the future? The future that we're building with Saturn in Aquarius. Aquarius really is the sign of the future. It loves kind of the latest cutting edge ideas and innovations. So working on our values, working to understand our values and what part they will play in the structure, that the collective, the future that Saturn is starting to build for us. So it all kind of combines up, as far as I can see, into just tapping us into that. When Venus goes retrograde, of course, that's the time when we really do start to pick apart our value system. So we can do a little bit more work with it then. Final day of the week is Sunday, and at this point we will have Mars now taking up the space that had been occupied by Saturn this Sunday, the very last degree of Capricorn. So this, I imagine, we will feel an extra potent Mars type of energy, which very much is that, you know, that personal responsibility. Mars in Capricorn, it's where the individual shows up. And I think we'll see a little bit more of the taking on individual authority, because Capricorn and Saturn are very much around, you know, the authorities. So we could either see, this could be a moment where, you know, things, you know, where the authorities have to get a little bit more strict with us, a little bit more warrior with us, perhaps. Perhaps we might see the police or the army being having greater involvement in things. But it's also that point where people, I think, are going to feel a little bit more empowered to speak up on behalf of what is right. You know, the authorities are doing the best that they can, and they are reliant upon us almost policing ourselves and policing each other just a little bit. And I don't mean in a kind of a vigilante way, but just, I think, certainly with the British mentality, to a certain extent, there can be an idea of, we don't want to make a scene, we don't want to make a fuss, like, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to upset the apple cart. There can be a little bit of that hesitation. And sometimes, in some circumstances, that can facilitate wrongdoing. You know, it's when we don't speak out against things that are happening that are wrong, that it kind of enables them to happen. So I think this is going to be a time when we can perhaps take just a little bit of our power back, a little bit of our personal responsibility back, that we've kind of willingly handed over to the others. It was not my job to kind of tell other people what to do. That's someone else's job. But I think we're moving into times when it kind of is our job a little bit as well, within reason. Obviously, Mars in Capricorn does tend to act a little bit more within reason, though, because it's dignified here. It likes being in Capricorn. So the Capricorn kind of Saturn influence helps to just cool Mars down a bit, so it's not too hot-headed. So just some thoughts for you to consider there. And I will essentially leave you with the thoughts of individual responsibility and individual contribution to the collective. I think that's massively the message of this week. And my strongest encouragement to tap into Venus and Jupiter. I wish you every possible abundance and pleasure and growth and beauty and harmony with that energy. I hope it finds you. And I hope then when it finds you, that you can continue to cultivate that, do some work with it with Saturn in Aquarius, so that it can radiate out to the rest of society. So have a beautiful, beautiful week. Stay well, stay in balance. And I hope this has been useful for you. Leave me some feedback, leave me a like, a love, give me a share, and make sure you subscribe. And I will be here same time next week to take us forward. Lots of love. Bye.